I had one coming in, and she basically had prompted for the first time in her life 3 weeks before she sat there, right? Not engaged at all. And she did this course. It was a 2-month course. And she came out, and she works in a very large organization in Denmark. And 2 months later, I talked to her, and she's heading one of their AI initiatives internally.
Good afternoon, Katrine Bach, and thank you very much for being here today. You're the co-founder and CEO of Connected Women in AI. Would you like to say a few words introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Katrine. I've had a long career in digital transformation, so primarily towards the pharmaceutical or within the pharmaceutical industry, starting out actually with the simulation-based learning for pharma. Did that for a number of years, and then moved into closed-loop marketing, and I've been sitting for the last 10 years as group CEO of 3 companies doing content, creative content, strategy consulting, and tech solutions for the pharmaceutical industry. Latest one was an AI product, which got me hooked on this technology. Yeah. I'm doing now Connected Women. So I founded, I stopped and I founded Connected Women in AI together with Barbara, and then a little later Mette, and I do that most of my time now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as I understand, the website that you have for Connected Women in AI, you've also launched a learning platform inside of that site.
We did.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so it's a bit of a longer story, right? Because when we started out, we were looking at the number of women that worked with or within AI, and that number was 21%, probably still is. Actually, not much has shifted, and we thought that was a problem, and we needed to change that. So that was originally what we did, and then it occurred to us, or we saw also an even more aggravating statistic, which is that women are using AI way less than men. So according to our own research in Denmark, it's 30% less than men. And when you're putting those two things together, with women, there's a gap that's just widening and widening. So very fast, we opened up actually from addressing primarily women working within the technology to basically address all women and encourage them to engage with the technology, right? Because the first step is always engaging, and this adoption number told us that this didn't happen. Now, of course, and we're getting back to why this is, but we had a lot of traction. So we started out doing physical events, training programs, but also inspirational events. And we had a lot of women joining the community at a very fast pace. So when we were 9 months in this summer, because we've existed only maybe a year and a half, only just, and we were at that time at 5,500 women in community, growing now to today a little more than 7,000. But at that point, we were wondering, how do we basically hold space for all of these women? Because we cannot do physical events at this pace. And then we figured we need to go online. That's the only way to scale. And we launched our platform back in November. So, approximately 3 months ago. Online membership platform. for the women listening, they would know Female Invest, and we always reference Female Invest because then people understand. But it's basically community and learning in one online members platform. And that means that you can access learning material, inspirational material, a whole lot of toolboxes. There's a job bank, there's mentor programs. So there's a lot of offers on the platform that you can access at all times, in your own time, and of course at scale.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I looked at it just the other day. It was pretty easy to find on the website itself.
Good. Yeah.
So how's it going so far? I mean, it's only been 3 to 4 months, but how you feel it's going? Have there been any surprises after launch?
It's going great. And the only surprise maybe, and that probably shouldn't be a surprise for us, but we launched very fast. So first of all, and that's of course, or that might be interesting for this audience as well. So we figured that we need to practice what we preach and put AI first. So the platform is an MVP that was vibe coded in Lovable in a matter of weeks, literally 6 weeks. And it was done by 2 women, of course, under 30, UX designer and a project manager. So there's something I think extremely fascinating about where we are with this technology now, that we can basically vibe code with a non-programmer profile. And this is also what we're going to get into, I think, in this conversation. What are the competencies necessary to basically make a difference in AI? But this is one thing that we wanted to see. Okay, so what's possible with this technology and without programming background? So we have an MVP now. It's a very good. I don't think you think MVP when you get into the platform. It does not look like an MVP, but we wanted to go to market fast, and we wanted to put a lot of volume in there, and then have it as a co-creation project with our community, getting feedback as to what is the most relevant content that they want to see, or what are they missing, and so forth and so forth. And I think the biggest surprise is actually the reluctance to feedback into that process. So either people are super happy with what is in there, or again, it's one of these women may not engage so much. And we see that also with the technology. So that it's like that with the learning materials, then maybe, I shouldn't have been surprised. But we are trying to encourage the community to give us way more feedback than we are getting right now.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like you're also because of the fast pace at which things are changing in this field, you'd like to actually get the feedback in order to develop further, right? So
yeah.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at content strategy. Where do we go from here? Obviously, the platform is web-based now. So as we're moving into a more also community-focused platform, maybe on an app, we would just like to know that we're catering for the right needs.
So how do you deal with... I worked myself a lot with some of the challenges around training. I said changes. Training is that things are changing so rapidly, and I think especially in this particular field, how do you balance this with having to update things? And I guess that's where you were looking for the community to play some sort of role in it. Is that right?
Yeah. So the reason we're here at all is that women don't engage to the same extent as men, and I think that what we've seen again with 7,000 women so fast. It's not a lack of interest, right? It's not about an inability to understand the technology. It's the engagement. right? So it's whatever barriers are preventing you from engaging. And I think that's where we've sort of put our emphasis, that this is about making women feel confident enough to engage with the technology, not feeling competent enough. And this is another thing where it has changed a lot over just the 1.5 years that we've been here. Again, as I said before, you with any competency you can, or a skill or education, you can basically contribute now to AI innovation. I think it's shifted a little bit, where before you might have needed to be, subject matter expert within AI programming. You might be a data scientist or something like that, and then understanding whatever subject matter expertise for the given thing you're dealing with. Now I think it's flipped. You need to be the subject matter expert in your own area, and then you need to understand AI, and this is where you can make a proper business transformation, which opens up, all of the concerns that we've had for years and years with the amount of women in STEM education and everything. I think that it's becoming less of a worry because you can contribute almost regardless of what you've been doing. You need just to understand what the technology is capable of. And these are some of the barriers that where we've seen the women have concerns, right? So when we say it's a confidence issue and not a competence issue, when it comes to women, it's about feeling that you can use AI without feeling that you cheat, that you are doing something that you are not allowed to, that you're doing something that might damage the world, or so there's a lot of these uncertainties when it comes to women that we see, and all the way down to the school system, right? If you're using AI, you're cheating, whereas most companies now, they would expect you to use AI, but what we see is a lot of companies have not worked sufficiently with their guidelines, with their AI policy, and here the women are hesitating more without these guidelines than the men. Men tend to go ahead and see what happens.
Act first and then ask for permission later downstream.
In this space, I'm not generalizing on a gender level.
I'm not going to. So actually, you maybe touched upon this next part, which is you referred to something called the confidence gap versus the competency gap.
Yeah.
How capable people hesitate longer. So what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. There's an interesting statistic, and I have to figure. Now I forget where it's from, but it was. I think it was actually from the AI Competency Pact, if I translate that directly, in Denmark. There was a survey where they were looking at the skill level within AI and the usage. And what we're seeing is, on a consistent basis, as your skill is sort of growing, then the usage is increasing as well. Up until you come to an advanced level, then the usage stops, right? So, which is odd, because here now you are advanced and now you stop using the technology. And that's because you're entering that space where you're consciously competent, and then you know that actually there's restrictions with this technology. There's the EU AI Act, and there's a lot, and all of these, and then people, they hesitate because they all of a sudden become conscious of the fact that, they may do something that's not regulated. And this is where we are finding that it's important for companies to basically train early in stuff like the EU Act, because Otherwise, people later on, they hesitate. And this is not the most sexy thing to train in, the rules and regulations. And hence, a lot of people, they train in what can the technology do and not, but actually there is a hesitation there. And I think it comes back to this confidence versus competence. You can be super competent, but if you don't have the competence to engage, well, then you're actually, much further. And I think that, we need to think about these thresholds for participation when we're thinking about AI as a technology, because it's clear. I mean, the data says it, that women are engaging less, and they're doing it because of these confidence issues, right?
Okay, so the regulation, in a sense, is kicking in at some point later, but reflection is kicking in a sense. People are reflecting on it, whereas
it was just an example of confidence versus competence, right? And this is not gendered, what I just referenced.
Okay.
No, but I think that this is what you're seeing when you're looking at women as a group. You just see that typically there is more hesitation to engage for different reasons, right? It can be, as I mentioned, not knowing exactly what's allowed, this feeling of am I cheating? Am I doing something wrong? Also feelings of isolation and being the only woman in the room very often when we are coming here. So these are the things that are pushing women out pushing them out of the technology space. So we also have another statistic saying up to 50% of women leave their tech job before they turn 35, which will then feed the number of management level women. That's 14% as opposed to the 21%, because women leave, so they never reach the management positions. So, I mean, there's a lot of different barriers for women. And I think what is interesting is to just be conscious of that. When you're a leader, a company, you need to think differently. It's not about interest and it's not about competency. It might be, more of a concern with this psychological cause of being wrong, right? That they might think more about the participation in different manners.
Mm-hmm. So would you say then that this aspect is handled or what's it called? Is part of the training platform that you released at the Connected Women in AI? Is it kind of meant to target that aspect?
So what we are doing with the organization from the beginning is it's very much a community organization. So it's harder when we're going online to do community, and it was hard as a platform in an MVP version to do a lot of interaction. So that's what's coming next. But what we are seeing is that community is to a very large extent driving this engagement. We have lots of examples of women sitting in our learning classes or courses, and I had one coming in, and she basically had prompted for the first time in her life 3 weeks before she sat there, right? Not engaged at all, and she did this course. It was a 2-month course, and she came out, and she works in a very large organization in Denmark. And 2 months later, I talked to her, and she's heading one of their AI initiatives internally, right? It's a very steep learning. It's very fast. Mm-hmm. And again, it just confirms that it was just she needed that confidence or that security maybe to sit in a group where would dare say, I haven't used AI, I don't know what I'm doing here, and learn from there and feel that there's someone else saying, I'm not so good either, and it's fine, So I think that's what is happening in our classrooms a lot. So the community feeling this, I'm not alone in this, I'm not an odd one out woman, there's a lot here that just encourages people to engage, and then it's super fast.
Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, because my own kind of AI journey started with, of course, like everybody else, prompting, playing with that. But then I had a chance to kind of take a step back and dig into what large language models actually are, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a breath of air, and also breadth of width of understanding of it. So you touched a little bit on the community as learning accelerator, and this thing about embedding learning in community and role models, and that's basically what you were talking about here, and it's quite helpful for people when they see somebody else involved with the same things.
And I just want to comment a little bit on what you said before, because you're mentioning that you engaged and you tried, and then you had the opportunity to sort of step back and learn perhaps in a more structured manner. But what is happening when we are talking technology is exactly this. There are people that engage fast, right? They try out, they test, then they get a pilot approved for some area. And what we're seeing now with technology and especially AI is it's the men that are doing these that are setting the early standards. And as you'll know, this is a problem, right? Because participation matters a lot for the underlying algorithms and what is being produced. So there is this debate now about, is LinkedIn making, gender differences? Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Well, I mean, so if you put your gender to male in settings, in LinkedIn settings, you get up to I think it's 800% higher exposure. It started out last year with an experiment done by an American woman, and I think she got 400% more visibility very fast, and then it went viral, and women they started doing the same thing, and everybody got the same results. Men would then set their gender to female and get lower visibility, and big rage towards LinkedIn and for discriminating. And LinkedIn says they're not discriminating, and probably they're not, because it's about participation. So when it's primarily men engaging with these systems, the system will think that it's the man that's right, that's the right answer, because it's the majority of the data input. And this is why we need to absolutely do something about it now when we are talking about artificial intelligence, because it's going to transform our society entirely, right? It's already transforming. And we have lots of examples where we're seeing women being diagnosed wrong or not diagnosed at all, because the AI recognizes the male symptoms as the symptoms, right? So that's the problem, or within HR, to this audience, where AI is filtering out female CVs because because they're written in a different manner, and it then assumes that it's wrong or not relevant. And women, they express themselves differently, and so forth and so forth. So all of these things is all about the data behind the technology, right? Yeah. And so we absolutely need the women to engage now, because you have this window of opportunity where you're setting standards and norms and all of that. The problem is, or the risk is, that very often it is those early adopters that start practicing something and then it becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. And if the women did not participate in setting the norms, then we're having another technology revolution that women does not participate in. And I think, especially as I said, with AI, it's super concerning because because it's going to impact our everyday life so much.
Yeah, that sounds. I hadn't heard this before until now. So it's essentially that the first mover is kind of making the algorithm, is kind of setting the parameters on the algorithm, and that's controlling it. And it's not doing it for personal reasons.
No.
It's just doing it because, LLMs are basically good at guessing. It's a guessing type thing. Yeah. It's trying to do it almost a trick, if you will. And it's using this as part of its toolbox to do its work.
LLM, I mean, they learn from data, right?
Yes. So that is a data-driven, but very strange. I hadn't heard about that at all.
Well, you can go look up. I think it's the LinkedIn experiment or gender experiment, but also the news. It was just in the papers because one of our politicians, she has just changed her gender. And so Berlingske brought an article here in Jyllandsposten. I mean, and I had an op-ed in this where I was talking about this is not about LinkedIn being a discriminating company or platform. Of course, they have responsibility, but actually, what we are seeing is a reflection of the data input.
Right. So it's a technical. It is in a sense a technical problem with presumably a technical solution.
But this is the thing with AI, you don't know what you don't know. And then, of course, you can cater for it once you become aware of it. Yeah. I'm just a little worried with, if it's apply this to healthcare, right? Then how many women need to be sort of undiagnosed before we then become aware, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's still guessing. It's still doing this. What is it? It's trying to get the right answer. It's just happy we are also happy if it gets the right answer. Yeah. But we also kind of want to know how it gets the right answer. And sometimes it's just really good, like at multiple choice in a sense, right? Yeah. Without really knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, back to your question, I think, about community and all of that. And for us, we'd like to see it more of this sort of participation ecosystem more than a learning platform as such, right? Mm-hmm. Because the community element is big in learning.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see. So you believe that AI exposes the limits of traditional learning models? I think I heard you say that. So it's basically what we've just talked about. Would you say? Yeah,
again, because right now the difficulty is not the access to learning content. Mm. That's not it. Again, it's back to this. The competencies can be developed relatively fast. There's so much available now within learning, and I think it's more, on the soft side is who is engaging with it then. Mm. So I think that's what I meant with that, because then we otherwise get skewed systems. So I think it's an interesting consideration to have this thing about participation design. When you're thinking about learning in the future or going forward. It's not about putting more content in there. It's putting more participation design in there. So that the ones that are succeeding are not the ones necessarily with the best courses, but it's the ones with the sort of lowest participation thresholds. Do you see?
Yeah. I know. I do see it. I see that content is now also, in some ways, AI solved the problem of content creation to a to various extent. It's still a bit of a chaos in that world. But now we have some other things now we have lots of content, too much content in a sense. Now we have to think about, okay, what are we going to do? So you talked a little bit about that. Then what do you then? I guess that's an answer to it. But what do you see? Learning and development is going to kind of look like in the future. You seem to be leading the way in a sense on creating that structure or non-structure of what it might look like if you just had to pick something out of the air or imagine what your next steps are going to be.
Yeah, I think that what we need to do is again think about this creating this psychological readiness. I think that's where we're moving. I think that's where any HR manager needs to how do you say, have a little reflection or about what this is happening, because again the reality that I'm seeing is that so many women are interested, and so little encouragement is necessary to reap a lot of potential. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No,
really,
I think we've rolled around this so many times. I think you've answered the question. So I have one more question, maybe more, but at least one more question here. You're also, part of your focus is on how Denmark can maintain its competitive edge in AI times. So what is part of the approach to that or solution to maintaining that?
I'm very passionate about this because if we take this all the way up to the geopolitical discussion that we're having now, then what is becoming clear, I think, to a lot of people is this need for digital sovereignty, right, or AI sovereignty. We cannot rely on the US, for example. So we need to build this AI sovereignty. And when I'm talking to the CEOs and leaders that are sitting here, their trouble with AI is adoption. And it's the anchoring of it. So what's the real value creation, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're then thinking about, okay, what does it take to go there? Well, it takes a whole lot of talent. That's what they're missing. They're saying they're missing talent and they're missing skills. And then at the same time, we're looking at like half the population that are hardly engaged here. So this is the biggest opportunity for companies today to engage, make sure that all their female employees, are they engaged? Are they using the technology and are they contributing to innovation in the same manner as men, or in the manner that is necessary in order for us to build this digital sovereignty and as a company even just build competitiveness, right? It's about the quality of the products and the innovation that you're putting out there. We all know, because that's been measured again and again, that diversity is a good accelerator for innovation. You get better products, but especially so when it comes to artificial intelligence. So it's about activating the talent mass, the full talent mass. It's about making sure that they have the skills and that they are being provided to them in a manner that engages and motivates them, right? And then you're also, obviously, and that's, you're getting better products and you're avoiding bias when you're doing that, again, because diversity in innovation and taking all of the different data points in is necessary for the technology now to be fair and unbiased. It only knows what it gets from input, right? So this is what we are talking to a lot of corporations about. How is it that they're then getting women to engage? And of course, we need to see beyond women as well. So we're talking about diversity with women simply being the biggest minority, right? But of course, it's about a whole lot of diversity. It's not only gendered. It can be neurodiverse. It can be anything. We just figured that women, that's a good way to start. It's easy to measure, or at least better than most other groups to measure. And we can see if there's a change and a progress. And we're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of movement here from women's side. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Katrine. That was really, really enlightening and interesting. Thank you for coming out today.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Future of Learning. I'm your host, Don McFarlane. A big thank you to Lasse Hansen from InstantSpeak.dk for recording and mixing the audio and for providing the studio here in Valby. Thanks to Carsten Seidel for video production and editing, and Nicolai Elbæk for our graphical identity. Martin Schultz is our executive producer. The podcast is brought to you by Transmission, a professional education company with a focus on AI and emerging technologies. Transmission works with HR and learning and development leaders to drive AI literacy and build practical AI capabilities across organizations. To learn more, please visit transmission.dk/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts and feel free to share it with your network. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to welcoming you back another time.